Hello, in this video we are talking about the method of factoring known as sum product. Now, if you remember, sum product can only be used on something that is a trinomial. And the trinomial must be in the form x squared plus bx plus c. So it needs to start with an x squared, then have a number with an x, and have a constant at the end. Now, if you remember, we are going to factor this into two different binomials. The beginning of each binomial for this method will always have an x. Then we need to find two numbers, a number to put here and one to put here. Now, the important thing about those two numbers is that if I were to add them up, whatever they were, they have to equal what was originally in the middle term. And if I were to multiply these two numbers, whatever they are, they need to multiply to be the end term. So let's look at an example. X squared plus 10x plus 24. So I know that this is a sum product question because it is a trinomial that begins with x squared. So I know that I need to factor this into two binomials, each one starting with an x, and I need to figure out what two numbers could go at the back of these two parentheses so that they add up to be the number 10 and multiply to be the number 24. Now, what I suggest is making a list of all of the ways that we can multiply to the number 24. And how I do this is I always start with the number 1. So I know that 1 times 24 makes 24. Then I think about the number 2. Well, 2 times 12 makes 24. Then I think about the number 3. 3 times 8 makes 24. If I think about the number 4, 4 times 6 makes 24. If I think about the number 5, 5 times nothing makes 24, so I'm not going to put the number 5 on my list. And then if I think about the number 6, well, 6 times 4 makes 24. But you'll notice I already have that pair of numbers. 4 times 6 is the same as 6 times 4. So I'm going to take that bottom pair off of my list. So we are now left with 4 different options. I could use the pair 1 and 24. I could use the pair 2 and 12. I could use the pair 3 and 8. Or I could use the pair 4 and 6. Whatever pair I decide to use must add up to be 10. So when I look through this option of pairings, which option is going to add up to 10? Well, this bottom one, 4 and 6, will add up to 10. Now, before I say I am finished with this problem, I'm going to double check. Does a positive 4 and a positive 6 add up to 10? Yes. Does a positive 4 and a positive 6 multiply to 24? Also, yes, it does. So this would be my final factored answer, x plus 4 times x plus 6. Let's look at one more example. X squared minus 3x minus 15. Again, I know that this is a sum product problem because it is a trinomial that starts with just an x squared. So for any sum product question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down into two different binomials. And each binomial starts with an x and ends with a number. And again, it does not matter what those two numbers are, as long as they add up to be negative 3 and multiply to be negative 15. So again, I like to start with the constant term and make a list of all the ways I can multiply to 15. Well, I could do 1 times 15, or I could do 3 times 5. And I apologize, but I made an error. Please erase the 3 in this middle term And let's make this a -2 so that our problem works out correctly. Okay, now let's get back to our list. We made a list of all the ways that we could multiply up to 15. We had 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. Now we have to figure out which of these two options is going to add up to a -2. Well, right now, neither of those will add up to a -2. 1 plus 15 would give me 16, and 3 plus 5 would give me 8. So, since neither of these options work, we need to start thinking about negative numbers. Which of these two pairs could possibly create a -2 if we were to use negative numbers? Well, because 3 and 5 are only 2 spots away from each other in the number line, I know that those are going to be my two values. Now we just have to figure out, are they both going to be positive, both going to be negative, or one of them positive and one negative? Let's try a -3 with a +5. Will -3 plus a +5 add up to be -2? No, if you type that in your calculator, it actually makes a +2. So let's try switching our signs. Let's make the 3 a positive and the 5 a negative and see what happens. Is a +3 and a -5 adding up to a -2? Yes. Now, will a +3 and a -5 still multiply to -15? Yes, it will. So this would be my final factored answer using some product. Here are 3 practice problems, very similar to the examples that we went through. Please pause the video and try these problems on a piece of paper. Then restart the video to check your answer.